episode of Hops Geek News. We are a podcast that talks about comic books, movies, TV shows, and we have a beer, all the while doing so. This week, we have a really, really exciting episode because we just did FanX Salt Lake Comic-Con last weekend, and we have a lot to talk about, a lot of really fun, exciting things to go over. If you have hopefully listened to our episode with Jeff Anderson and Brian O'Halloran, who are from the illustrious Clerks franchise, hopefully you gave that a listen to. It was a really great time, so we'll touch on that a little bit as well. But first things first, if this is your first time finding us, hey, stick around, subscribe, go ahead, like the podcast, share it with a friend, all that good stuff. You can find it by searching Hops News on any podcasting platform. And you can also find all of our social media accounts by searching Hops Geek News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that good stuff. And if you want to help the show continue to do good things, like go to FanX, go ahead, subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/HopsGeekNews. All of that aside, I'm going to go ahead, and the beer that I'm going to go ahead and represent this week is a local batch called Specialty Release, and it is from Snake River Brewing out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which says, good things come in small batches. You're holding a can of something new and interesting that our brewers want to share with you. You can soak in the knowledge that this is not only that it's not available on store shelves, only directly from our headwaters, Jackson Hole Snake River Brew Pub. It doesn't actually say what it is. If I had to guess, it's like a porter or a Belgian or something of that nature. It tastes like a Belgian, and it's just 12 fluid ounces, you know. Doesn't even say the ABV on it, which is weird, but good. I grabbed it a few months ago when I was up in Jackson Hole hiking the Tetons. So I figured, especially to release, we had some special things to talk about. Why not go with this amazing beer? I was almost not going to drink because my liver needed a break, but here we are. What are you drinking?
So I am drinking a Doomsday Device double IPA from Drecker Brewing. So this one, a couple things. I wanted to find something geek themed because we were talking FanX. And two, I am on season 8 of Smallville. So Doomsday is a big character on there. I am running through it, and I have it in my Figment glass because one of my favorite costumes we saw this weekend was the guy dressed like the guy from the old Figment ride, and he had a little Figment on his shoulder. So that's what I'm drinking. I can't read the ABV because it's really, really tiny, but I'm sure it's about 8% or something. But Drecker's pretty well known. This isn't my favorite of theirs, but it's a solid double, and it's got some cool can art.
Yeah,
I think I've drank it on here before, but I will post it on the Instagram again.
Yeah, that is a pretty cool glass. I'm still like hungover, I guess, from Saturday. Saturday we drank pretty good because there's a reason to celebrate. For whatever reason, I guess maybe because we only get together like once in a blue moon. It was like we always tend to drink a lot.
Yeah, well, Saturday, I don't even know how many breweries we went to. I have to go through all of them because
we hit up a lot of breweries in Salt Lake, a lot of good ones. We went to Epic, we went to Proper, we went to Temple and Family, we went to Saltfire. Wow, what was the first one we went to? It was that German style one where the guy was named Sunshine, but he was not Sunshine at all.
But then he came around and he was super nice after that.
He did. Man, it was the first one we hit up.
It was interesting because we walked in and, for anybody who hasn't been to Utah, no matter she said at some point, if you look like you could be under 35 is when they ID, but they instantly asked for everybody's ID. Which that was in Salt Lake too, or not Salt Lake, in Nashville. They did that as well.
True.
But
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, and you can't have beer on tap if it's over 5%. So anytime I ordered a beer, almost all the beers I got were out of cans, which is super weird.
Yeah, so any draft beer in Utah has to be 5% or less. It's bizarre. Meanwhile,
Bewilder Brewing was the first one we went to, and that was a German-themed German food.
Yes. We also
got
went
a Marzen.
Shades.
It was delicious.
Ooh, that's right. I had the pumpkin beer from there, and it was really good. Like I said, Sunshine in the beginning was not about it, but he came around at the end. I had a pretty good brat there. It's Oktoberfest season, so we started off with a good German brewery.
And he made me leave my water bottle at the front.
Yeah, that was another weird thing. They made you leave your water bottle. Utah's just weird. Okay. They waste so much aluminum. No wonder there's an aluminum shortage.
It's not the brewer's fault though. That's for sure.
It's
God
not.
knows they don't want to do that.
Yeah. So if it's over 5%, they pour it from a can or a bottle. And it's weird because at Epic, they were corking their bottles and things. And we're like, how does this, I don't know. The guy was leaving them out. I get it. Your stouts and stuff you can leave out, but it was just bizarre. But yeah, Shades, we did Beehive Distillery. We did a lot.
I didn't have a single bad beer.
No, honestly, I didn't have anything either that I was just like, wouldn't get again. Everything
and they
I had was really
Unita
good.
Pale ale. That's solid pale ale they had in the FanX building. So that was nice
Kona
to be able to
Big
get
Wave and
we got a beer selfie with Dante Hicks.
We did. Man, that's so much. So we're going to recap. We're going to recap FanX. Lauren, first though, you have some news. So why don't you hit us with some of your news?
Too much. So the Spectacular Spider-Man is coming to Disney Plus on October 16th. That is an animated movie. Keanu Reeves is returning for a Constantine sequel. I've never actually seen the first one. I need to watch that.
What? It is so freaking good.
However, this is Warner Brothers, so don't hold your breath.
I don't even know that I'll believe it until while watching the movie on screen. I'll probably be like, no, they're going to cut this movie at some point. There's no way this is actually happening right now.
Yeah, they're just going to write it off. So this is pretty exciting, and I hope that this does happen, but I'm not sure exactly how if it's going to be completely redone, if it's going to be part of the Cobra Kai series. But there is a new Karate Kid movie in the works from Sony, which is set to release in 2024. So we shall see how that works out. The Boys spin-off series, Gen V, has wrapped production. I'm very excited about that. These characters are in the comic book. The comic books do not solely, worry about the seven like they do in the show, which is funny because they're called the Seven, and I feel like there's never actually been 7 full members the entire 3 seasons.
They all die off right away, and all
they
that
pretend
good stuff.
someone's, they exiled the Deep, and they pretend Translucent's not dead yet.
Yeah.
So here's some exciting news that everybody will love. New Mutants is finally heading to Disney Plus, where it totally might achieve cult classic status. Wow, that's what comic books said. The comicbook.com, that's what they put on their Instagram. I think that's pushing it. I forgot Jonathan from Stranger Things was in that.
Oh, yeah, he is. That's right.
Voice work for Invincible Season 2 has finished, and Season 3 is now underway. J.J. Abrams' Constantine and Madame Xanadu shows are both dead at HBO Max. Just write it off. An AI program flawlessly casts Tom Holland as the Legend of Zelda's Link. Epcot holidays around the world will start November 25th. I will, of course, have beer TikToks or something for videos or something to let you know what craft beers they will have this year as soon as the festival starts. James Earl Jones is retiring as the voice of Darth Vader.
See, he kind of has already been retired though, because they've done, I guess this was like him officially signing away his voice rights to AI, because he's a Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was all AI as it is. So, but it's kind of still sad. Well, he's old, and it's just one of those like iconic moments where he officially announces that, yeah, this is it. He's AI. It's from here on out. It's, not me anymore. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. And he's such a legend. And I think he voiced Mufasa in the live action. I wonder if he's voicing Mufasa.
He did.
Oh, probably not for the prequel. They're probably going to have somebody with a less deep voice. All right. Tom Hardy entered into, a martial arts tournament in secret and apparently won. So good job on you, Venom or Bane.
He's been doing mixed martial arts for a very, very, very long time. So I'm not surprised he won. This is like one of his passions.
I lost to Bane.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be painful.
Oh, that was bad. My last piece of news, The Witcher Blood Origin releases December 25th on Netflix. I keep hearing wonderful things about The Witcher, but I still haven't seen it.
I saw half the first season. Just the games are good. For some reason I can't. I don't know, man. I'm very hit or miss when it comes to like high fantasy stuff. It's so hard. Like at the con, there was a lot of people who were there for high fantasy, and I want to support you, but I also don't want to lie to you and be like, oh yeah, check this out, because the truth is, I'm just not into high fantasy very much. Like Lord of the Rings is in Game of Thrones, that kind of stuff can be considered high fantasy. That's about the extent of it for me. It's not my style, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, to each their own. We all have our own things. As long as you don't judge other people for liking what they like, it's okay if you don't like it. All right, so shall we dive into some FanX? I didn't hear what you said.
I said unless it's furries, which we saw a whole lot of at this con. Man, I didn't know. I guess it's been a while since I've been to a con, and I didn't realize furries were that big a thing now.
Hey, again, different strokes for different folks.
You know what? I'm not in that room with you or Forrest or whatever's going on, so each their own. You're right. So yes,
I don't think they're all dressed like that in the bedroom. I mean, I'm sure some of them are, but I don't think all of them.
I don't know, man. Apparently that's the thing. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I don't know how that logistically works. I mean, what do you just furry on the top half?
I think there's like a hole. Well, yeah, a lot of people just will do it.
Oh, it's like a glory hole, but in a costume. Tail on. Okay, this is the side of Pornhub I don't want to go down.
Anyways,
right.
Yes.
So let's do something wholesome. We're going to start with something wholesome. We're going to start with America Chavez. Sochi, I don't know I forgot what her last name is, but I just wrote America Chavez and then I put Sochi because she said her name. So I was like, that's how you phonetically pronounce it.
Yeah. God, I'm so illiterate with names. I'm so glad that she announced it because I'm over here like, oh God, if I have to actually mention her name, how do I pronounce? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep. There you go. Now we know. So she was super cute. I didn't realize how young she was. She's only 16. She was saying how she did musical theater and she said that was a big thing. Because, you always have the little kids come up, if I wanted to get into this, what should I do? And they all tell them, do plays, do musical theater. She said she's done martial arts. Her mom said you could end up being a Latin American superhero one day. Look at that. Always listen to your mom, kids. Her favorite superhero is Loki. And I didn't know she was in the Netflix Babysitters Club. So that was cute. But she could not do season 2, or she gave up season 2 and they recast her so that she could do Doctor Strange.
Which, I mean, why wouldn't you, right?
So this was a fun fact. She said the pizza balls were disgusting. The special effects made them look delicious, but they were actually gross. And that's kind of funny. Remember when we did our Ted Lasso episode and the one lady with the biscuits, the cookies, she said that she kept saying in interviews how bad they were. And then the next season, she said they got better. So that was the best acting she's ever done, was pretending those cookies were delicious. So maybe if she has to eat pizza balls in the future, if she keeps saying that at interviews, maybe they'll make them better.
True.
One thing I thought was interesting is she said that they added the special effects as they filmed. So they would film a scene, add the special effects, and then they could show her and be like, this is what we're going for. This is what it looks like. And she said that helped a lot because she could see how everything was progressing. Because you hear, especially newer, younger actors are like, you just feel silly. And I'm sure you do. You're just sitting there acting like you're running from a monster and there's nothing there.
Got to feel so weird. It's just like you're in this volume stage, or maybe even you're outdoors and you're just it's pretend. It's like it's got to be great for kids because it's easy, but sometimes how hard is it, to get into that mindset sometimes? Yeah.
I mean, what was it when I was at the WB tour lot in California? We did the whole Friends thing and they pull people up and they're like, okay, you're going to act out this scene. I've seen this scene acted out a million times. And as soon as the camera's on me, I'm like, I have no idea how to do this, which it seems like, oh, you just pretend you're doing this. And it's like, it's so much more than that.
Much easier said than done. Everybody's like, yeah, I could act. It's so easy. Oh, ho, ho. But is it though?
Right. And then you hear so many times where they're like, in water and they're freezing and they're outside at 3:00 in the morning. And,
yeah, you're dead tired and you have to somehow get into this energetic character. And you're just, again, you're beyond exhausted. It's got to be hard.
Right. I mean, granted, they get paid a hell of a lot more money than any other career. So we're not woe is woeing them. So this one was kind of cool. So they started filming when she started the process of becoming America Chavez when she was only 13. And the movie came out right after she turned 16. And Marvel actually gave her a phone to document her time on set. She ended up giving it back to them. And she said she hasn't seen any of the footage come from Marvel, but she did keep some of the footage. And if anybody's interested in that, I think she posts a lot of it on her TikTok and whatnot.
She does. I come across it a lot. It's actually really cool because she posts a lot of behind the scenes footage from her time on Doctor Strange, and it's really cool seeing things with Benedict, and it's really cool. That's all I can say about that one.
Well, and yeah, she posted a lot of stuff with Benedict Wongers. I always forget what his last name is. I wonder if that's the only set where you've ever had two Benedicts that were the main character. So one day she pretended to be Benedict Cumberbatch's personal assistant and she brought him her food because she was bored. Or brought him
His food.
Brought him his food. She learned to drive on set, and she actually got to drive the producer's vintage red convertible. And she's like, "Are you sure this is okay?" And he's like, "This will be a hell of a story that you can tell." And she's like, "Well, not if I crash it." But yeah, so she got to do that.
Be a hell of a story.
Yeah. And she said one day she wants to direct, and she's actually started directing with music videos and stuff.
Good.
We shall see where she goes one day. You never know. She might be huge. She's still
Hopefully
so young.
She does. I can't wait to see more of her character in the MCU as well, because there's so much they can do. Like, she brought in the introduction to the multiverse, which is leading this entire saga. So like, she is instrumental in that. And I didn't get to go to that panel. Where was I at during that panel? I was somewhere.
I don't remember. Carrie came with me.
Because it was, right? So you and Carrie went. I think I was roaming around and I was talking to, so for those of you who always don't know, we had press passes to FanX. And so we got to kind of go in
I need
early.
you to say that like Ron Burgundy. I'm kind of a big deal.
We're kind of better than you. Yes, even though they probably hand these things out like candy. However, I only saw like 2 other people with them. So you know what? For the 3rd largest Comic-Con in North America.
It was massive. Way bigger than MegaCon.
It was really cool. So we got there Thursday and the con kicked off at 1:00, which we got there just after. And it was really easy.
A few beers deep.
Yeah, we had a couple beers, got there, and we, right from the get-go, got to go in. We got our press badges. And you feel special at this shit, right? When you get press at, like, it's so easy to feel so. You feel so special. So you get your press badge. You go in a side entrance, and like day 2, you get to go in an hour and a half. You kind of get to go in whenever the vendors are setting up. Nobody questions it. They see your badge. They're just like, do what you please, essentially.
They just smile and wave. Hi, have a good day.
They literally are just like, hey, how's it going today?
The scanning machine wasn't working, so they didn't even scan us to get in.
You have to scan. You get a wristband that you have to scan with a QR code. It scans you in and out. So first day that wasn't working, and the con had already started. So we're kind of going down. We go, and the first place we go is Celebrity Row. So Lauren and I go there, and we see the Clerks set up. Like Brian and Jeff and Jay were all out next to each other. They had the Clerks banner up, and we go like, shit, let's go talk to him. And so we go and we get a picture with Brian. And I was like, hey, would you be open to doing an interview? And he was like, you know what? He said Sunday, but obviously we all thought it's a weird Utah. Again,
we were all on that where we thought it was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Because
so everybody was on the same page and wrong.
But yes, so he was like, come the last day. It's usually the best day for interviews. And we're like, oh shit. Okay. At the time I was like, oh, he's doesn't
being
mean
nice.
it. Yeah. He's being nice. I doubt this is actually going to happen. So we do our thing. And then we go off and saunter around and stuff for a few hours, kind of check out everyone's booth, things like that. I don't think we did a panel that day, didn't we? Was there a panel we did that? We did the Clerks panel. The first day we did with Randall and Dante, Brian and Jeff. They did the Clerks panel, and that was really funny. It was great. It was cool seeing them back in action. It was in the grand ballroom, which great. Again, where you can just walk in, you just flash your press badge, you can enter anywhere, and it was really cool. So that was kind of the first day. But the second day, we got our Starbucks, we were charged, ready to go, and you get to go in again. Like the lights aren't even on to this convention center yet. So you just walk in, you scan your thing. Everyone's
all
like,
the vendors are setting up.
Yeah, vendors are setting up. Lights aren't on. They're like, hey, have a great day.
And Brian did say the first day, he's like, oh, you guys have beers? They have beer? And then he goes, Jeff, did you know they had beer? And Jeff looks over at us and he's like, what? They have beer? Where's the beer?
Yeah. And then they got beer afterwards. Like they had to talk to somebody and they ended up getting a lot of beer afterwards. So it's just kind of cool because they didn't have any idea. We just waltzed up there with beers. Like, hell yeah, dude, beers. And the first day is when we kind of left a little earlier than the con closed and went to Epic and a couple other breweries out like that. We just kind of were getting our feet wet. And then, like I said, you're going down the escalator the second day and just they aren't letting people in. But there's already a massive like horde of people in this hallway. It is jam packed. There's hundreds of people. And it's just like, wow, you kind of have that feeling. Again, it's hard not to be like, this is so freaking awesome because this is kind of like our first time doing legit press, right? Like,
right. But see,
big deal
you look at it. Even if we convince one person to go, that's money well spent on their part. Like they lost no money. We spent money there and we've done nothing but, and honestly, it was phenomenal. I would recommend it to anybody who's into this. Like, as much as I love going to MegaCon, regularly, it's also in my backyard. And like, this was bigger than MegaCon. I mean, MegaCon is, I think, pretty big. And the vendor area was literally twice as big as MegaCon.
We
felt like,
in
I mean,
there.
I'm not great at math, but it felt like it was.
There was people we had talked to that were like, oh, you've been to MegaCon. Yeah, this is way bigger. And
yeah. Well, the funny thing is I actually saw Jeff and Brian at a panel at MegaCon 4 months ago in May.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I didn't take down too many notes for the Clerks panel, but I did do video. So, they talked about like Lord of the Rings, how sometimes people will bring over to Jeff like a Lord of the Rings thing to sign, and then they go get the hobbits to sign it because obviously, Jeff makes fun of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yes.
And Jeff and I had a moment talking about it too on our last episode, which is when we got to do the interview with them. So if you want to see any more of that content, we do have both of those on our YouTube, and you can listen to the interview we had with them in full on the previous podcast of this.
Yeah.
But we don't just want to direct you to our socials. We just have so much content. We don't want to overwhelm
so
everybody.
Much video, a lot to, we don't want you to.
So there's a short little 3.5 minute video on our YouTube with the Clerks panel if you want more on that. But they were hilarious.
They were great. Now we did
Do you want to finish telling how we set up the interview or how you set up the interview?
We'll get to that. Because we'll get to this is day 2. Let's go day by day. Because day 2 we did some cool.
My first notes is Jay.
Yes. So we went to the Jay Muse panel first. He was it wasn't first. It was at 2:00. We went and got lunch. We walked around a while.
And we didn't know he was doing a panel. He was supposed to originally be with I keep wanting to say Dante and Randall, Brian and Jeff. And I was like, oh shit, we need to go. And that's when we saw him outside on the phone. He was on the phone a lot.
He's in the middle of moving. And so that second day,
he didn't pack up his Legos like he was supposed to.
No, so this is the fun story. So we walk up to his thing and I'm standing there. The guy who moderated the Clerks panel the day before, I just happened to run into and was talking to at Jay's booth while we were waiting. I was going to be like, hey, can Jay do an interview? He said he would be down for it the day before and all that good stuff. And so we were over there chatting and the guy was like, hey, hold this for me. So I hold this thing and he goes, you can keep that. And it turned out to be a Blunt Man figure that he got. He had a bunch of these that he was just passing out to people, having them signed to give away to fans and stuff like that. So it was freaking sweet. Like that kicked off the day. I was in my Roosevelt.
It's a pretty sweet toy as well.
It is.
I hope
sweet.
It's proudly displayed.
I have to find a place to display it. So I was in my Roosevelt's Jay and Silent Bob shirt, which a lot of people were like, oh shit, this is sick. And like, they were really smart. They put the QR code on it. And so a lot of people were scanning the QR code. So Roosevelt's hook up some promo codes, boys. But we go up to Jay
really
and
did have that thing scanned a lot.
Exactly. Both days, like with all my shirts. So we go up and we talk to Jay. He's cool as shit. He was talking about how he's moving. He's got Lego sets. I was like, dude, I have so many Lego sets. This is how you do it. Saran wrap them, saran wrap them. That way the pieces don't go anywhere. So hopefully he remembers that and it changed his life. We take a picture. He said
his wife was calling him because he was supposed to pack up his man cave and he didn't.
Yes. And so he was on the phone a lot for that. So I feel him, man. We got a picture with him and he was cool. He took like 1 million pictures, making a bunch of it. The dude was awesome. He was also really energized. Like the guy was pounding fucking energy drinks. As we found out on the Clerks panel, he would drink like 15 energy drinks a day and run from the person whose only job it is to watch Jason Mewes. This poor girl, her first job is to watch Jason Mewes, and he keeps disappearing and try to get away from her and stuff like that.
He was intentionally sneaking away from her.
It's like you could tell the guy is highly energetic and just moving around. And man, he is. I wish I had that energy, but
yeah,
we go to get lunch.
Nice. A lot of people said it was very nice to see that, because he went through a very rough patch with
he did. Well, he talked about it in his panel.
Yeah. So it's really nice to see Kevin being healthy and Jay being healthy in two different ways. Everybody has their vices and they both had them and they both turned their lives around. Man. And thank God, because we wouldn't have had Clerks 3.
Exactly.
And thank God, because they have kids and wives. And,
they got kids and stuff. It's just, they've been cornerstone to who we are growing up and things like that.
100%. So it's so funny because I actually, we took the picture with Brian and I shared it. And my high school boyfriend, responded to it with like a heart or a thumbs up or something. And I responded back like, thank you for getting me into this, because I will never forget the first time I watched this movie. And my friend Brandy and I said to our boyfriends, who were both friends and both already like had Blunt Man and Chronic posters, and it's like little Nick had a Blunt Man and Chronic poster on his wall. And we're like, why the fuck are you making us watch a black and white movie? And the next thing we know, like, we're watching Mallrats and we're watching Chasing Amy, and Brandy and I are going to see Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back in the movie theater without the boys. So
we used to, we would.
Well, and he's commented on some of the pictures on Facebook, like, oh, wow, this is really cool. So, all right. So, some of the fun facts we got from Jay during his panel is he's always down to tuck. He just doesn't want Kevin's wife to see his 3-piece. He kept calling it his 3-piece, and I was dying laughing because you think like a 3-piece suit.
Well, it was hilarious because it's like he was talking about how. Well, this leads into my question. Yeah, he was talking about how he's always down to tuck. So I was like,
the scene in Clerks too, and his only concern about doing the tuck, because apparently he does that regularly, was he didn't want Kevin's wife to see his 3-piece because she was on set.
It was awkward.
Kevin's like, "That's okay. You're going to be wearing Silent Bob's coat."
Yeah. This leads. So I went up and I was like, I'm going to ask a question. I was like, I got there. He did the rap, $15, little man, which is on our YouTube again.
I got part of it. I pulled my phone out as quick as I could, but I also had a hard time not singing on the video.
He did it because there's interpreters, for ASL interpreters. And so he went over there and was kind of messing with them. I was like, can we see how fast they can do this and all that stuff, which they did phenomenal. Like, shout out to the ASL, especially there was one that we met on Sunday who was amazing, which I'll get there. But I go and I ask Jay, I was like, Jay, as clearly as day, we can see that you're down to do anything. Is there anything that Kevin asked you to do that you were just like, not going to happen? And funny enough, there was. So on Zach and Miri Make a Porno, there was that scene where Lester walks out while Seth Rogen is pouring his heart out and things like that. And this was the day his mother-in-law was going to be on set, his wife and some of her friends. And he had to walk out completely naked, just hanging dong. Right. And he was like, Kevin, I can't do this. I got my mother-in-law, all this coming. And
I think he was worried they were all going to see it in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, and then his wife's like, my friends aren't going to see your movie.
Well, yeah. He was like, my wife's not going to watch this movie. And so like
harsh, man. I mean, I had Elizabeth Banks and Seth Rogen in it.
So he did one cut where he walked out naked and one cut that he was cupping and covering it. So, cause he thought they were going to have something like, oh, he's going to walk out and they'll have it cut off. There's a table or something, cut it off at the highest weight, which was not the case. And
like
then
an Austin Powers kind of thing.
Yeah. And then he did this improv where he drinks the orange juice and he dropped the cap and he just he bends down. And that's when Kev yelled cut. He was like, everybody was dying on set and they requested better lighting because they wanted to see in that movie the outline of Jay's ball sack just with the lighting and stuff.
Who wouldn't?
Exactly. So that came from that panel. Just absolutely hilarious.
That whole answer though, you got the whole thing on video. So if you want to see Jay's whole answer to Matt's question, that's on our YouTube channel. We don't have our own. Once we get to 100 followers, we'll have an actual URL to give you. Until then, you just have to search Hops Geek News. It's on the geek one, not the beer one. Yeah.
Right now we're switching YouTubes and things like that. So that's where you have to go help us grow the YouTube, of course, but
just trying to get those niches where they belong. Yeah. Keep the beer in one place and keep the geek stuff in another. Some people love both of it like us, but not everybody does.
One fun part was when somebody went to leave and Jay was like, wait, no, come back. I promise it's going to get better. And the guy leaving was dressed like Jesus.
Was he Buddy Jesus or Jesus?
No, he was dressed like Jesus.
Or Buddy Christ? Oh, geez. He's like, these people are hopeless. I can't do anything. I give up.
The guy he was like, wait, no, come back. So that was hilarious.
I did see a Buddy Christ and I said, hey, Buddy Christ. And he literally looked at me and pointed at me with 2 fingers and smiled. I was like, that's amazing.
It was great.
So a couple other fun facts we got from Jay. Mallrats, he said, was his favorite Jay and Silent Bob movie to make. And one of the reasons he said was because he got to meet Stan Lee. So then he told this other story when they were filming Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It was kind of like a new world for him because even though he had been in movies, he talked about how in between every movie, he was still selling pizzas. Like he wasn't
he was working construction and selling pizzas.
Yeah. So he's like, oh, I was always doing construction and selling pizzas between these movies. And so on Strike Back, there's a ton of celebrities. You got Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, and you got Will Ferrell, and there were so many cameos in that movie. And so one of the things I guess he always did when he was in hair and makeup is he had on the song Shaggy. It wasn't
Yes.
me. And they got me on the counter. It wasn't me, which they played as we were leaving, which was funny.
Yes.
But at one point, there was a scene with Will Ferrell, and he said, and all of a sudden, Will Ferrell comes up behind him and starts dancing and singing, "It wasn't me." And he said it was a very surreal moment because, like, Will Ferrell was dancing with him and singing. Have you seen the Madness movie, Madness and the Method?
No, I haven't.
So I actually watched that maybe 2 years ago. It was one of them I watched when we couldn't leave our house. I remember watching the reboot, and then that came up as a recommended movie. So Jason Mewes is the star of this movie, and it's called Madness and the Method. And it's a crime comedy. It's very interesting. It's like they were describing it, which I hadn't heard it described before, but it makes sense when I heard him saying that. It was like an alternate universe Jay. I highly recommend it. You do get cameos from like Brian O'Halloran, which Jace, at one point, there was like a scene where he's like beating up Brian O'Halloran's character and he starts like crying, and it freaked Jay out because he was acting so well. And like, he wasn't necessarily, he's used to working with him on Clerks and stuff. So
Right.
I would watch that. When I watched it was on Prime, might still be on there. But he said he got to, I guess, direct that movie, and he said he'd love to direct another movie. But when coming up with the movie, like, one of his friends like wrote it, and he said he wanted to play a serial killer. So they kind of worked on it together. So maybe we'll see more from him in the future. He talked a little bit about playing with the orangutan on set of Jay and Silent Bob. He said they actually weren't allowed to play with it unless, because if you played with it, then the orangutan wouldn't act properly.
That was good.
And another fun, which I thought was interesting, is in Clerks, there was no improv allowed. It wasn't until later on that Kevin
wouldn't
Smith
let anybody do until like Dogma.
Yeah, he said that was partially because like Chris Rock was like, how are you going to tell Chris Rock not to improv? Well, but like Ben Affleck tried to improv a scene in Chasing Amy, and Kevin Smith got all upset. Well, then he made the joke. He's like, why don't you go write your own movie? And he did. Good Will Hunting.
Yes.
He won awards.
Oh my God, that is good. That's good.
And then also, with the ad-libbing too, because like they did Zach and Miri. So he said Craig and Seth kept cracking jokes. I mean, what are you going to do? Take their jokes out?
That's true.
But yeah, it was really cool too, though. So he was talking about, there was a scene with Carrie Fisher. He said when he met Carrie Fisher on set of Jay and Silent Bob, she actually pulled him to the side at one point and was like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? I've been there, because it's been told many times he was on, drugs, or he was big, he was big into drinking then. He was trying not to do drugs, so he was drinking a ton, and Carrie Fisher actually pulled him aside and talked to him and like, Princess Leia is telling you to calm down.
Yeah, they're walking through that field and everything.
Yeah. So that was really nice. And, and that's the best kind of person when you're dealing with something like that, is somebody who's been there talking to you.
Yeah.
And my last fun fact is my supernatural fun fact. One of the things Jay said is like, he was looking around at all the other celebrities, and he's like, wow, I can't believe there's other celebrities. And he said, man, it's Crowley from Supernatural. Fuck yeah. Those are his exact words. Fuck yeah. So Jay got excited seeing Crowley from Supernatural.
That is awesome. Well, you went to a Supernatural panel. Was that Saturday?
And that's the next one.
Okay, yes. So, what was the giz with the Supernatural? Because my story comes later on.
Oh, dun, dun, dun. So the Supernatural panel was just Crowley and Ketch. I know a lot of people stopped watching around like season 10 or something. I don't remember when Ketch showed up. He showed up later, so you might not be familiar with him. Charlie ended up coming the next day, so she was not on the panel, although she was supposed to be. However, the two of them, Crowley and Ketch, are actually friends in real life, but never did a scene together on Supernatural. But their panel was quite hilarious. Mark Shepard, who is Crowley, literally just walked around. Like, he kept walking around. And then when people started asking questions, he was literally standing next to them, staring at them. And, when somebody's asking a question, they have them on the big monitor. And you can see, like, some of these people were so uncomfortable because the king of hell is just staring at them while they try to ask their question. But, I mean, it was very... So they do this whole Supernatural cons all over the country, and I've watched videos. I've never been to one, and it's with Creation is the one who sets them up and does all them. And they specifically say on the websites, this is 18 and up. There's adult content. We do not recommend anybody under 18. And so there was a couple times they would start to say things, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't Creation. We need to keep our responses a little more PG-13." Oh, there was a whole bunch of jokes about headcanon fan fiction that went a little too far. Let's see. So Ketch, there was one behind the scenes story that they told where Ketch has a really big head, and when we first meet him, he's like on a motorcycle, he's in the Men of Letters, and they were filming a scene at night, and they grabbed a helmet, and the helmet wouldn't fit on his head, and so I guess they were all making fun of him, and Jared told him, or they said it looked like a yarmulke on his head, and at one point, I guess Jared started playing Spaceballs with the scene where they found a helmet to fit his big head, like he could use the Spaceballs helmet. So he was telling us some behind, because Jared and Jensen are known for doing a lot of bullshit on set, like pranking people. And I guess Misha is one person that they go really far with, because somebody asked Crowley if they ever pranked him. And he's like, no, he's like, I wouldn't put up with that. However, Misha, the first time he directed an episode, Jensen and Jared shredded his script 3 times. And that's just minor. They've done stuff to it, like they've taken his car keys. Jared broke his nose one time, smashing a pie in his face. Crowley and Ketch have both said that if you're doing a scene with Jared and you can't see him, he's doing things like trying to fondle you, make suggestive faces at you. But apparently Jensen's so used to it that he just will literally just do a scene while Jared's like doing all these things, and Jensen doesn't even break character. He's so used to it.
That's hilarious. Okay, that's hilarious.
Yes. And I've seen some of the behind the scenes stuff, and it's really funny to watch Castiel go from like, I am an angel who pulled you out of hell, to that's not nice. Stop doing that. Both Crowley and Ketch said one of their favorite episodes is Baby. And if you've seen Baby in Supernatural, that is a phenomenal, amazing episode. The entire episode is filmed in the car. And then Crowley, my last fun fact is Crowley talked about how Moose became a nickname. So if you have watched it, Moose and Squirrel are nicknames from Crowley to Dean and Sam. Sam is 6'5" in real life. Jared Padalecki's 6'5". He's very strong is what he said, but apparently he never does leg day, so he has chicken legs. So that's kind of where the Moose name came from, because he's very tall with very skinny legs. And obviously Moose and Squirrel, yeah.
That's crazy.
So that was really funny. I feel like it was a lot of more silliness than fun facts. But
where was I at during this panel? Because there was something happening.
You were meeting Kevin Smith.
Oh God. Okay, that's right. I'll let you finish before I get to that.
So there you go. Tell your Kevin Smith story.
You're right. Okay. Yes. The greatest thing on planet Earth happened that day while Lauren was at the Supernatural panel. I honestly didn't remember. This wasn't a lead-in. This wasn't a setup, but it was a good segue.
Well, I remembered because Carrie was supposed to come with me to Supernatural, and she's like, I have to go see him geek out over Kevin Smith.
Yes.
Because she knew you were going to be losing your shit.
I'm surprised I didn't cry, to be honest with you. Like, I thought I was going to cry. I don't cry, but I thought I was going to cry. Which
Kevin Smith cried when he met Steve.
Yes. And so Carrie, who, shout out my wife, she killed it this weekend for us. She helped us out big time, taking videos, things like that. And so I went and did a photo op. I thought the photo ops were sold out, but turns out they weren't. So I did session 2 with Kevin Smith. I was like, you know what? I got to do this, man. I got to do this. So I had the blunt man. It was just like a sign. And so I did it. You walk in, you kind of wait in the line, like you're herding sheep and cattle, all that. And you go through, and people are like, the guy I was working, he was like, Kevin's going to take a long time because he makes it very personal. All this, like, this is very important to him. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. It's not just like smile next. He takes the time. When you walk through, he gives you a hug. He talks to you for a second. He pointed out he's got the Roosevelt shirt. And I was like, of course I do. I was like, you're the reason why I podcast. Like, my mind went blank. I felt like a fucking idiot. I hugged this man, and I'm just like, holy shit, this is happening right now. And I was like, dude, you are the reason I do this. And so Carrie went to go stand off to the side. He's like, you're not getting in the picture? She's like, oh no, I just wanted to see him do it. He goes, I'll tell you what, him and I are taking a picture together. Then you're getting in here and we're all taking a picture together. And he didn't have to do that at all. He did not have to do that at all. And I was just like, Kev, you're the reason why I do this podcast. And I just sound like a fucking idiot. And so like my mind went blank. I didn't know what to say to the man. Like, I don't get starstruck normally. I'm just like, oh wow, this is crazy. I get nervous, but like my mind just went zoop, turned off. And so I wish I had said anything else other than what I did. But we take the picture. I'm holding the one, and he's just like looking up to me, which I have here. I'm going to frame elsewhere because I have the one of me, him, and Carrie framed with our press passes behind me now. But God,
I see it. Wow.
Yes. And so after, you take the picture and we hug again. And I just wanted to hold this man and be like, you defined movies for me. You're everything. And it came out in the form of, you're the reason why I do this
You start
podcast.
singing, "You are so
Because
beautiful
his
to
movies
me."
really hooked me onto cinema. And then of course, just listening to Fat Man Beyond and Fat Man on Batman,
Well, they just
he
encompass so much pop culture.
exactly, Kevin Smith is pop culture to me. And he's just so positive and such a great, genuine human being. And so it came out like that. So then they heard you off and I was just like, wow, that happened. And then we went and we did the Cobra Kai panel, which is a lot of fun.
Yes.
That panel was great.
That was great. I mean, I would say William Zabka and Terry Silver, whose real name I can't remember, were the best of it.
Oh my God. And the next day I walk up, I was like, dude, your panel is one of my favorites. And, he shook my hand and everything. And it was awesome.
Yeah. And that's another one. We do have a video on our YouTube with a panel from them. So they had Miguel, Sam, Robbie, Hawk, Johnny, and Silver. So that was a decent amount of people.
Hawk stole the show on the stage.
Hawk was adorable.
Well, first and foremost, I did try to get an interview with Miguel and them, Zolo, if you will. But due to their Netflix contracts, they are not allowed to do interviews. So that was the case for a lot of the people on Celebrity Row. I was asking Stephen Amell, I asked, they're like, he's not allowed to do on-site interviews. I was just shooting my shot left and right. Unfortunately, nobody could, but not nobody.
You know what? It paid off in the end.
It did. But this panel was awesome. They talked about bullying and it was great. So William Zabka came out and he was dressed just like his character. He got into Johnny gear and came out and he was just,
I feel like that's probably just how he dresses.
Well, that too. But I saw him at his panel. He was dressed pretty nicely in all black, kind of a suit and stuff during the day. And then he comes out dressed like Johnny. And I was like, this is going to be fun. And so they kind of get to talking and
say the guy Ketch, he was in full suit and he looked like he came right off the set of Supernatural. But also what threw me off, he's not English. He had an American accent. All right, back to Cobra Kai.
What threw me off was the damn lady in front of us at the Cobra Kai panel. She was awful.
She's in our video. You will see her, yeah.
She is unfortunately in our video.
She was losing her mind. She did calm down, though.
She did, but she's this grown-ass woman.
I was concerned she was going to scream the whole time.
It was not fun. But hey, everybody, I was internally freaking out with Kevin Smith. So to each their own. Again, me, the only words I can muster to Kevin Smith are, "You're the reason why I do this podcast." So whatever.
So one of the funniest things I heard was from Hawk. Somebody said something about, because I guess he's done Disney movies or Disney shows or something.
He was on the Disney Channel. Yep.
Which, yeah, my daughter had said she knows him and she knows the blonde girl whose name is escaping me. The main blonde girl. Just finished the damn show a week ago. Anyways, so Hawk, he said the thing that has changed is he used to have kids who were younger than him come up to him and be like, "Oh, I love you so much and you're so great," and da-da-da-da-da. And he said since joining Cobra Kai, his friends' dads come up to him and they're like, "Oh man, that fight scene was so awesome, da-da-da-da-da." So he said that's been the biggest change, which I thought was hilarious. Silver and Johnny, so their first fight for Cobra Kai, they didn't fully have everything choreographed. So they were like, they both know karate. And I guess Silver is actually a black belt in real life. They mentioned that. And so they kind of just went for it in the fight scene. And Silver said the next day his forearms were covered in bruises.
Yeah.
Johnny was complaining, or William was complaining, they kept calling him Billy. Billy was complaining that Silver was too rough on him. And he's like, "I'm covered in bruises."
Yeah. They didn't expect it. None of them really knew.
Yeah.
They all kept getting hit and you don't realize that you're actually hitting each other. That was a great line. Another one was when the girl who plays Sam, how she was like, you never know when taking a couple karate classes would pay off, because you go in to get cast as a romantic interest and then you wind up doing karate the next season.
Right. The next thing you know, you're Danny LaRusso's daughter and you're having to fight.
That was great. And
yeah.
Hawk can't do a flip kick or whatever it's called.
The flip kick?
Yeah, when you lay down and you jump up. Yeah, that was a whole thing too during the panel, which is great.
I guess Hawk was given a certain amount of time to learn to do a flip kick, which is that what it's called? I didn't know what that was. It's a thing where you're on the ground and then they leap
I don't know exactly what it's called.
and stand or flip up or flip something. So that's what it is. It's when you're laying down and you almost go into like somewhat of a bridge pose and bounce up.
Yeah.
And so Hawk, the actor, he couldn't figure out how to do it. And the actor who was playing Robbie was like giving him shit because he can do it. And then something came up at the very end and Robbie ends up doing it on stage, but because somebody asks him to, and he's like, I'll only do it if he does it. And so he ends up doing it, even though he said his pants were too tight. And then the guy was like, oh, because they were running late. The guy was like, okay, well, they have to leave. And then the Hawk kid was like, ha, 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 yay, I don't have to try to do it because he can't do it.
Yeah,
there you go.
It was good. Overall, really great panel. I thought they were very lighthearted, fun. They made it fun.
And more than one of them said the hardest episode they've done was the last episode of season 4 at the tournament. So that was multiple. Because it was multiple of them said that.
A lot of things going on at once. And then William Zabka said his favorite season was season 6. Gasp!
Yeah, he did that on purpose.
Oh yeah,
that wasn't an accident.
Season 6.
He also said his favorite move is defending the crow kick.
Yes, and he looked at it as he was never the villain. Like he was looking at it through a different lens while rewatching the film growing up and a bunch of stuff, and then it took him to doing this show to kind of look at it from different aspects, which is a really interesting tidbit as well.
Just like Barney Stinson.
Yes, and that was not it because I stayed behind while you and Carrie left to go walk around and do stuff because I was not losing front seats for Kevin Smith. And so I sat through the My Hero Academia panel.
That's right. We went to the Hollywood thing.
Yes, you went to the Hollywood thing. I sat through the My Hero Academia. I've never seen the show. Anime is not my strong suit. But it was a fun panel. Overall, I thought the panel was fun.
When we came in at the very end, it was funny.
Yeah, it was a funny panel. Yeah. I don't really have much because I kind of brain dumped it and was just kind of mentally preparing myself for the Kevin Smith
Hollywood,
panel.
I did not take pictures. I will put together, by the time this comes out, there will be a little clip on YouTube, but I'll put together all the stuff that's related to Supernatural. So Hollywood, if you go to YouTube, search Hollywood, it comes up. They do these amazing parody videos. My daughter first found them and she was showing me they have 2 Supernatural ones. Like instead of Ghostbusters, it's who you going to call Winchesters. And they have a ton of people from the show actually cameo on that. They have a Time Warp Doctor Who one. They have a Hocus Pocus one that's This Is Halloween. They have I think they have a Lord of the Rings video. They have a Harry Potter video. They have what's Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes, yes.
Umbrella Academy. And I mean, they are currently working on a Good Omens one. And I asked when it was coming out. And I'm like, I know you guys have been asked this a million times, but do you know when it's coming out? Because they've been talking about it for a while. And she's like, somebody's telling us we can't put it out right now. And that was like all she was allowed to say. So I don't know if the Prime was like, you can't do this or what, but they seem like if you go to I highly recommend it. The videos are phenomenal. They're hilarious. They're choreographed. They're funny. You see cameos and stuff. And it's, the Doctor Who one is super funny. But yeah, so the panel was cute. They actually played one of the Supernatural videos and whatnot. So that was fun. It was better, I'm sure, than sitting in a panel for a show I've never seen.
Actually, I enjoyed that panel. Like I said, it was funny. The characters are all funny, and it was cool, and people were into it. So
it was funny to hear their stories.
Yeah.
Like one of them was saying, because they're voice actors. And so one girl was like, yeah, they were looking for a voice actor who was like whatever her name was. And she's like...
like Chris Sabat was like, there was a thing you'd think we wouldn't have to audition because somebody put out a thing that was like, we're looking for a Chris Sabat type voice actor. And he hit up his agent and was like, why can't I just go in and get the part? And they're like, well, can you come in and read anyways? And then the girl was like, they were looking for a voice actress.
That sounded like one of the characters she voiced. Yeah. And she didn't get the part.
She goes in and reads and doesn't get the part. It's like, what is those? It's like, that's gotta hurt. It's, but that was
gonna be frustrating as all hell.
Yeah. But yeah, so the grand finale that day was the Kevin Smith panel. And your boy asked a question.
And that full question, 30-minute answer is on our YouTube.
Yeah.
There's 2 of them. So you get 2 kind of perspectives on our YouTube.
I accidentally took up the panel on accident. Very inadvertent. You know Kevin Smith. Man loves to talk. And I love to hear him talk.
Yeah, there was 4 questions like the whole hour.
So he gets 45 minutes. And he's the final thing. They didn't plan this very well. It's Kevin Smith. They should have thought about this. So we go up. And I'm the second question. And
I don't know. I don't remember.
I think I was like this. No, I was the first or second question. And so I asked basically like, what was the initial reaction of everybody who read the script for Clerks 3, going in expecting more dick jokes, to find out that they would in fact get punched in the dick and be like, holy shit. And that just spiraled off. And it's like him and I were like having a conversation, it felt like, because he was looking directly at me half the time. And that's not me being conceited. He was just, when he talks to somebody asking a question, he would look directly at them while answering it. Yeah, he'd look at the crowd too, but so, and then I would like, it just felt like we had a conversation in my head. Again, I'm fucking crazy, but it was great. It was like a 15-20 minute answer. And after that, they only had time for like 2 more questions, and I felt bad. But at the same time, I was like, I don't really feel bad because I got to ask Kevin Smith a question and got this amazing answer that just went off on this big tangent. And at the end, he was like, I don't even know what the original question was, but did I answer it? And I was like, you more than answered it, my friend. You gave us more than I could have asked for, because
You gave me
the
life.
next day, yeah, like Vincent D'Onofrio gave me a 2-minute answer, which is fine. But it's like the differences. And they had to like kick him off stage, Kevin Smith, because he was like, nobody's telling me to stop, so let's keep going.
It was also
and
the end of the night. Yeah, he closed.
It was.
And his panel started when the convention ended.
Yeah, and so they were like kicking him off stage and things like that. Like, you got to go, man. So that was kind of,
he would have kept going.
He would have all night, and I would have listened to him talk all night.
I think everyone in there would have.
Amazing. And we were all like, no way. So when we were walking out, the TV said, "Time's up, Snoogans," which is really cool. So that ended day 2. Day 3 rolls around, and day 3 is packed.
Let me go through the Kevin Smith fun facts real quick.
I totally
I took notes.
I got excited.
You got to make my notes
you
worth
took
it.
Notes. I was living my dreams.
That's true. You were sitting up there in line, probably like anticipating your asking your question. I did not ask any questions. Matt's way better at that than me. I'm the note taker / researcher.
All the fucking questions, man. Like I think the only panel I didn't was Giancarlo Esposito, and that's because time ran out and I got up there too late. Yeah,
that was a really good panel, but
it was
more so for myself. But that's going to be, I think, the last one. So, some fun facts: when Carrie Fisher was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, so he said every cameo was getting paid like a flat fee, like minimum wage for like the movie area, whatever. But Carrie Fisher said she did not want that. She wanted production to buy her antique beaver chairs.
Yes.
And when he asked her like, yo, what's up with these antique beaver chairs? He thought maybe she was just trying to avoid paying taxes on it. And she said, I just thought it would be funny if I was paid in beaver chairs to be on Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. She's amazing. Amazing.
I miss her, and I love her every single day.
And then, so I guess Jay kept hitting on her in between takes and stuff. And she finally yelled at him to stop. And he was like, oh, like he thought he was being inappropriate. And she's like, all you guys do this, and then none of you follow through. And she was like mad about that. So it was funny. Somebody asked Kevin his least favorite movie. Obviously, he couldn't answer that, because even the movies that didn't get great reviews, he still enjoyed making.
And that was actually great. He went through every single one. And then he was basically like, of course, he's told the story before, he didn't want Yoga Hosers to be his last movie.
But still, he made that with his kid. I mean, he went through every single movie he's done, and he's like, okay, Dogma, let me think about this. Okay, Jersey Girl, let me think about this. And he defended Jersey Girl because George Carlin was in it.
Cop Out, yeah.
Yeah. And he said he loved, everybody treated him on set on Cop Out. So then he started talking about a story, and I don't know if this is something that's still in the works. He said that he's working on a script with his daughter based on an 80s cartoon full of girls, where it goes back and forth from the 80s to the current time, where they were like, okay, you can write this, but you need to have at least one female helping you. So he recruited his daughter, and he says it has a superhero feel with a dual identity. If this is still in the works, is this Gem? Because that would be amazing.
I don't know I've been trying to figure it out too, which is funny, because then he was like, Harley was taking her time.
Gem's a businesswoman by day, rock star by night.
Yeah, and that would make sense to me personally.
And that's 80s. That would make me so happy. I was Gem when I was 4 for Halloween. I want this to happen.
I do too. And
I guess time will tell.
He tried to write about the girls, and his daughter was basically, Dad, this isn't how anybody talks.
She's like, you are so wrong, Dad.
That was a great tidbit. And it's cool to be like, he grew up being like, you can watch iCarly to his daughter, or you can write iCarly. Like that advice right there where he was basically like, you can watch film, you can do this, but you can also go out and write it yourself and to work at that.
Yeah. So, his daughter's name's Harley Quinn Smith. And so he introduced her to Margot Robbie on they went to like the premiere of Suicide Squad years ago. And I guess Harley got to see Margot Robbie recently. And when she saw her, she goes, "Oh, look, it's the real Harley Quinn."
It was on the set because they were both in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's where she come out of her trailer and she was like, "Oh, look, the real Harley Quinn." And,
that's adorable. Yeah. Kevin Smith did say 10 years, they're going to do another Jay and Silent Bob movie. And Harley will be Logan's mom. Logan is Jay's daughter, who Jay's daughter actually played Ben Affleck's daughter in the reboot. And Kevin's daughter played Jay's daughter in the reboot. So Kevin said in 10 years, he's going to have Harley be Logan's mom and Jay will be Logan's grandpa. So we'll see if that happens. That math doesn't really work out with a Harley and Logan, I don't think. Okay.
I don't think so. I don't know.
But he said Reboot was his favorite movie to make because he got to make it with his daughter, and his daughter did really good. And he even said there was a scene where, like, because, Jay plays her dad, where Jay started crying and Kevin's like, "That was really good acting." And he's like, "Man, that wasn't acting." Like, because he's known her his whole life and he just like broke down watching her do this scene. He said his Marvel movies are his inspiration. He has zero desire to work on a Marvel movie, but they are his inspiration to make his own movies. And he said Eternals was a little slow, which I was kind of surprised to hear that because he reads the comic books. He cameoed on an episode of Law and Order and he tried to improvise, and he was told that all the lawyers on set were mad at him and he had to go back and not improvise and read the lines. One of the people who was supposed to work on Clerks 3 ended up they got hired to be the DP. I don't remember what DP stands for Mandalorian season 3. And he was like, I can't do that because I have to do Clerks 3. And Kevin's like, "No, you need to go do Mandalorian."
Which I don't blame him.
Oh, and then he told the story, which I think this is a pretty common story, how the studio didn't want Jason Mewes for Mallrats, and he actually had to audition and everything, and it was a close call. But yep, that's all I got for Kevin Smith, and now we're on to day three, was awesome. Which I start with Stranger Things.
Yes, so you went to Stranger Things.
You guys hung out with Steve.
I did. We had a packed day, so I chose to meet Steve from Blue's Clues, who is every bit as wholesome and amazing. Waited in line, got a picture with Steve, went to his panel, and I'm just going to hit us real quick with some existential crisis because Steve was like, he was in a dark place for a while, and his panel was phenomenal. Like, this guy is amazing. He did the theme song for Young Sheldon. He still works and writes for Blue's Clues. He told him the only way he was coming back was if Steve was a crappy detective, because he was like, Steve, if it wasn't for you guys, Steve wouldn't be able to leave his house. And he even wrote an episode of that where Steve came back and he couldn't find his keys. He couldn't get out of the house and stuff. And so it was really cool. He was basically like, it wasn't until I did that viral TikTok video that I realized what Steve meant to people. To him, it was just a show. Like, he didn't think it was going to work. It was just a small, closed show that meant nothing, basically. But to see the reaction that people had, he was like, I didn't know that's what that meant to everybody. And so it gave him a newfound appreciation. Him and that guy who played Joe are extremely tight. He helped cast the new guy, Josh. And his panel was just full of deep talks. He got to take home the very first notebook, and then he got to take home the thinking chair, which somebody was like, "Do you have a dog?" And he was like, "Yes. However, they just died a year and a half ago, and it was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through." And I was just like, holy shit, dude. And the dog.
Was that awkward when he said that?
No, well, it was, but it wasn't. It was just like this sad moment. And it's just like, you wanted to hug the man. He's such a genuinely good human being with a very, very pure heart. As who knows, maybe behind the scenes he's an asshole, but
that'd be really funny.
That'd be the first I heard. He was like talking about the rumors of how people were like, if people keep making up these rumors that I'm dead, I'm not dead. And so that's why his Instagram's like Steve Burns is alive, and he's really into photography. He's been to every continent but Africa. He was like, yeah, and Antarctica, they don't let you do anything. And you see the penguins and they all look like they're businessmen who are late for a meeting and how they're running. And he's like, you get your fill of penguins in and stuff. And so it was just a really good panel. I love Steve. He was phenomenal. But how was the Stranger Things one?
The Stranger Things one was entertaining. So it was Argyle and Chrissy, and then Dustin showed up a little later. But how Argyle acts in the show is how Argyle acts. he seemed like he was high and he kept occasionally dropping F-bombs, but very casually. Like, and he was hilarious though. He was really funny. They were all very down to earth. The girl who played, so Chrissy and Argyle are obviously never in a scene together, but they did a movie together in the past. So their chemistry was fine. They knew each other and whatnot. Chrissy said she thinks she could take Vecna. So somebody asked Argyle if he would shave his head because, he has that long, gorgeous hair.
I don't think he's allowed to.
So his answer, he's like, well, it would have to be a conversation. Like if somebody was like, look, you're going to be in an alien prison on a planet with a lice problem, then yeah, maybe I cut my hair. But he went on this whole tangent about shaving his head and whatnot. And then he's like, but it'd have to be a conversation. Somebody asked if Chrissy's heard all the remixes. She's like, yes, I've heard all of the remixes of Chrissy Wake Up.
God, I'm so sorry.
They were talking about good death scenes, and one of the ways Argyle said he would like to go out in a movie or a show, or in Stranger Things, because somebody's like, if you die in the next season of Stranger Things, how do you want to go out? And he gave a couple examples. One was like Quint in Jaws, being eaten by the shark and still fighting. And another one he said was RoboCop, where the guy gets slammed into chemicals and then explodes. So that was fun. And then the questions they got were kind of silly, but they were fun. So somebody asked them what their celebrity crush is. At this point, Dustin did show up, and he said it would either be Carrie Fisher in Star Wars or Harrison Ford in Star Wars, which I thought was hilarious. And I could see that being, they're two very different crushes, but both phenomenal. Chrissy said Keira Knightley was her first celebrity crush. And then Argyle goes, mine was Nicole Kidman in Batman Forever, because using the bat signal as a booty call is quote, best way to use a bat signal, end quote.
Can relate.
See, you missed this, man. This was a funny one. So Argyle, he said that no, because somebody's like, who's the funniest on set? He said Noah, but he doesn't mean to be funny. Poor Noah. Keep making him have that bowl cut.
It's awful.
So the scene where they're at the table, Argyle and Jonathan are both high at the dinner table with, Winona and everybody, they had to wear contacts to make their eyes all red. He said that was incredibly difficult, and he had somebody whose job it was the entire time to just put drops in his eyes.
Oof.
So then they had a whole, I didn't realize how ridiculous this panel was until I'm going back and reading these notes. I do have two fun facts, but one more ridiculous thing, and then I'm done with Stranger Things. So somebody asked, what's the most interesting food you've eaten? Dustin said cricket tacos. Chrissy said coins. Apparently she swallowed a bunch of coins when she was 5. And then they kept making jokes about the change that she received. And then Argyle said Long John Silver.
Yeah, gross.
So Dustin said the scene where he has Dart in his hand, the little demi-dog, when he's more like a slug, and he's like, wow, and looking at him, he said it was a silver ball that he had to look at and be like, wow, this is amazing, because it was rolling back and forth in his hand. He said that was an interesting scene to film. And then somebody asked him what it was like watching Eddie do the guitar solo. And he said they were on top of a trailer in a neighborhood in the middle of a night while he was doing the guitar solo.
That sounds
He said
badass.
He genuinely felt bad for the people in that neighborhood. And then he had to go running down the street screaming in the middle of the night in a neighborhood.
Yeah, but I guess some people could be messed up because they don't give us, they don't care. But that's kind of cool though. To be like, that was in my neighborhood. Cool
until it's the middle of the night and you have to be at work at 8:00 in the morning and your kids are up and But usually they do things you have to get permits and stuff. And I don't know, there are people who live in Alexandria from The Walking Dead. Literally they can't even mow their lawns until the season's over. So my last guest I have is Giancarlo Esposito. Do you have anything you want to jump in real quick, or should I go to Gus?
Go ahead, because we didn't do anything, and then go ahead and hit him real quick. I'm going to be honest, that panel was just all about Breaking Bad. It didn't do anything for me.
Yes. So there was nods. There was one nod to Once Upon a Time. There was a couple nods to Star Wars and The Boys.
We got
but
two
they
to The
really
Boys,
did lean into Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, which I loved. I could see if I was going in there for Star Wars and The Boys, I would have been disappointed. And that's honestly what I was expecting. But
I'm very surprised there weren't Mandalorian. Very, very, very surprised. But
yeah, there was a couple, but they were subtle.
It is.
So somebody asked him if he sees all the memes about him. He's like, I have 4 kids. They send me all the memes they see about me. So he is Italian and African. And obviously in Breaking Bad, he plays well, this isn't obvious. He plays a Chilean. And so he had to have a Chilean accent, or he's from Chile, in Breaking Bad. So he had to, because somebody asked him if he had to learn Spanish. And he said, yeah, it was a little hard to try to do the Chilean accent on this when that's not his heritage at all. He did a phenomenal job, though. Parish is a show that he's currently working on that's going to be on AMC. So if you love Giancarlo Esposito, pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about ad-libbing. He said there's no ad-libbing in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. The dialogue and the script are just so phenomenal. You don't need it. So somebody asked, if Gus and Moff Gideon switched places, who would do better? He said Gus from Breaking Bad would do great on a starship. He said Moff Gideon and Apoyos Hermanos would do terrible. So I thought that was pretty funny. Somebody asked who his most evil character he's ever played. He said Moff Gideon. Somebody asked if he could play a superhero or a villain in like DC or Marvel, who would he play? In the past, he has shown interest in Xavier. He also said Magneto, and he said Mr. Freeze.
Yes, I popped when he said Mr. Freeze. That one sounded. I would. But take he said that he liked his backstory. He did.
So I thought that was pretty cool. But he seems very open to joining the MCU. Kevin Feige, we've said it before, if you're listening to this podcast. So when somebody mentioned Once Upon a Time, I loved this quote he gave. He said one of the things he loved about Once Upon a Time is anybody who hasn't watched that show, it's a twist on fairy tales. Yep. It's basically like their queen curses the town, and the punishment is they have to live in the real world. And so you get all these fun fairy tale stories, and the show was really good. It jumped the shark a little bit in the last season, but it was really good before that. And he said, quote, fairy tales become a mirror part of the mythology of our lives, end quote. I stuttered a little there. All right, a couple more fun facts, and I am done. He said at one point Aaron Paul was actually in the chicken suit at Los Pollos Hermanos, and he found that hilarious and was cracking up because he didn't know who was in it. It was all about the cleanliness of that
restaurant too.
Yeah, he did talk about the cleanliness of that restaurant. I don't know if I didn't write that down because I didn't realize that Los Pollos Hermanos is a real place. Yeah. And so they were actually serving food and whatnot there. And he made a joke about like, this needs to be cleaned up. And they're like, well, it's a working restaurant. And he's like, all the more reason why it should be clean. Right. So his 14-year-old daughter came with him to watch Breaking Bad episode 401. And he like warned her before, like, this is a character you're going to see. He said he had to talk to, the mom about it. And they went back and forth. Like, is she old enough to see this? Should we let her see this? And he said when the episode ended, she looked at him and she said, quote, good kill, Papa, end quote. And then she actually started watching Breaking Bad after that at the beginning. And she loved it. Yeah. Oh, it was Twisters is the real restaurant that Los Pollos was filmed in. So if you want to try to do it. Somebody asked him one of the things he finds difficult in playing all these villains. And he goes, I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. He said, I had to put a lot of that away to play these different villains.
Right.
Because, Moff Gideon's not going to come out here and be like, give me the child with it, shaking his hands up and about. So, and obviously in The Boys, both those roles, and in Gus in The Boys and in Mandalorian, he's very still and calm and quiet, and it's almost what makes him terrifying.
Yeah.
Plays a fantastic villain. He was like a motivational speaker that day, though.
He was.
I forgot the Scream one. I do have a couple Scream notes.
So I'll go over Vincent D'Onofrio real quick. His panel was great. I asked him kind of how he melds into his roles and things, which is on his YouTube. He gave a pretty good answer. But I thought the most interesting thing from his panel, number one, was somebody asked, who would he want to face off in the MCU the most against? And he said that we have no idea what we are in store for Born Again. Very interesting to note. He did say Spider-Man, of course, but he also said that Echo is going to be nothing but fantastic, that the entire cast is amazing, and that we're not ready for how good Echo is going to be, which I believe it. He has a very good story in there. It seems like he's a pretty pivotal role, obviously, in Born Again, and that everything is dreamy on set as well, and they get along really, really great as friends. And then he said that while he was Edgar in Men in Black, while he was researching how to play this role, he was watching cockroaches on just how because he's supposed to be like a bug. And he was watching this and he basically got fed up, like, I'm not learning shit. So he took a walk and saw somebody with like these leg brace prosthetic shop. And he stopped in and like asked them if he can try these braces on and if lock them in place. And so he learned his walk for that movie, basically from randomly getting fed up of watching cockroaches. And, that was a pretty great story. So you can go ahead and listen to that whole thing on YouTube. I'm not going to bore you with that. But before we get to the kind of the end, why don't you go ahead and hit us with the Scream real quick?
So the Scream one was Skeet Ulrich and Jamie Kennedy, and it was hilarious. The two of them were just ridiculous. We did get some fun facts. Mostly they were just goofing around. So Skeet was Ghostface when Jamie is on the couch watching Halloween. And I think there was, I guess, an outtake where he like actually did like scare him. Jamie actually asked the audience, with Hocus Pocus being as big as it is, he's like, I feel like Hocus Pocus and Scream were both such big movies, but Hocus Pocus has a huge impact on pop culture. And he asked, which do you think has had a bigger one? And of course, there's a room full of Scream fans. They all screamed Scream.
Well,
no pun intended.
Scream definitely is.
It changed horror movies, I think.
It did.
Yeah. So I think it did have more of an impact. I think Hocus Pocus is just a category of its own.
I mean, Hocus Pocus did a lot.
Scream in Napa Valley, and apparently they drank a lot of wine. And there was at one point where one of them goes, do you remember that night in the barn? And then Jamie asked that, and then Skeet goes, yeah, kinda. And apparently they got drunk in a barn. I don't know. Jamie made a comment about how much he loved his niece and nephew in the new movie. So that was cute. And then there was some other random movie that Skeet Ulrich was in where there was they found a baby and there was a discussion of raising the baby and selling the baby. I don't remember what the movie was, but the twins who played said baby were there and went to ask a question and told him. And he's like, wait, what? You were the baby? And so that was a cute little reunion. But most of the questions were ridiculous. Somebody's like, what's your favorite scary movie? And he's like, Showgirls. And Jamie seemed a little high.
Probably was. He probably was.
But yeah, I will have a little video on that. So head over to our YouTube or our TikTok to get all the actual videos of that, because Skeet walked right in front of us and like looked at Carrie and asked, well, I did get a video of that booty, but I was throwing my food away and he looked at Carrie and the people near there and was like, why are you guys all the way in the back? You get here late? And we did get there late because we were getting beer. And she's like, no, we're just wanted to be back here. But no, we were 5 minutes late to the panel because her and I were getting a beer.
Yeah, well, you still got to sit in and you still talk to him. That counts.
Very true.
At least to me it does. So that's awesome.
It was funny. And Jamie Kennedy made a comment. He goes, a lot of people have come up to me and been like, we just wanted to talk to you, but we're saving our money to take a picture with Skeet. So Carrie and I wanted to wait in the line to say that to Skeet and then take a picture with Jamie Kennedy, but it was too long of a line for a joke.
It was a massive line, which it would have been hilarious, but we then kind of finished up. I talked to a couple. I talked to Connor Leslie, who is Donna Troy. And I talked to Tom Cavanaugh real quick, which is really cool. And then we went over and we got to chat with Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson.
Beers with them too.
We had beers with them. We shared beers. We talked for about 10 minutes, which that episode is on YouTube and last week's episode. So please go listen, go watch. I understand kind of the audio in the background's a little loud, but you can hear everything perfectly. And it's also because we are on location at a Comic-Con that's massive going on. So Lauren lent her shoe for bottle opening reasons, which you can hear that story about on that episode. But that was it. We, at that point, we're like, that's it. The con that's made. Like we had nothing else. Like that made our whole weekend. That made the 2 years of us doing this kind of worth it and showed that possibilities are endless for where we can go with this show. So from there, we went and hit up a bunch of breweries and drank a bunch and came home the next day. And now we have post-con depression, but all in all, like it was I get
amazing. It every time after MegaCon too.
Yeah. I mean, every time it was just so much fun. It really was. I thank you to the people at FanX for allowing us to cover this. Thank you to anybody who took our sticker who might be listening to this. I have a bunch of artists and animators, people who worked on Hercules and Gargoyles and Batman to reach out to and hit up and be like, hey, we've talked at the con, come on the show. But more importantly, thank you to Kevin Smith for being cool and let me just be an absolute idiot. Thank you to all the guests who showed up. And then Brian and Jeff, man, like they didn't have to take time, especially Jeff, who doesn't do any of this stuff, took the time to get and chat with us. And to me, it kind of made the last 2 years like, wow, this look where we are, look at where we came from, look at where we're going.
And they were both so incredibly nice.
Oh, they were absolutely amazing. Really great guys. It was just amazing. And please,
then Jeff came up to me after and like tapped me on the shoulder to let me know that he goes, somebody came up and asked why there was sand all over my table. I was like,
and it was from Lauren's shoe.
Who knew? I've carried sand all the way from the beaches of Florida to Comic-Con in Utah.
It was great. And, hopefully next year we're going to get to do something somewhere, whether it's Salt Lake, whether it's maybe MegaCon, whether it's who knows. But people who actually listen to this, thank you. Thank you for helping us out. All that good stuff. I can't say it enough. And that kind of does it. So next week is going to start our Halloween. I'm going to be trying to do some TikTok videos and things like that about, 31 days of Halloween, kind of recommend a horror movie every day. We'll see how that goes. No promises, but we're going to do a lot of really good stuff Halloween wise, films. Halloween Ends is coming out in a couple weeks on my birthday. So,
but will evil die? We don't know.
Anthony Michael Hall was there and I wanted to ask him if evil will die tonight. So we'll see. But thank you in the meantime. Please, 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 as always, go ahead. Help, sharing is free. Recommending is free. So if you like the show, recommend it to somebody. And we'll see you guys for Spooktober next week. Cheers, everybody.